Hey there, I'm Caleb Brown. Welcome back to my kitchen. And today we're doing my favorite video so far. And I know I only have 3 or 4 or 5 out there, but this is absolutely my favorite because I am kind of a big cereal fan. I like cereal a lot. I like milk a lot. I know not everyone loves cereal and milk, but I do think that this is a really interesting one for a couple of reasons. One being just this nostalgia factor. What I want to do, I don't want to make just any cereal. I want to bring back a cereal from potentially our childhoods that has been discontinued, that you can no longer find anymore, not even on eBay. And even if you could, it would be very stale. And we're talking about Nerd cereal. Nerd cereal is really interesting for a lot of reasons. For one, this was only on the market for a year or two. Discontinued in 1986, 1987, somewhere in there. So I was born in 1987, so I've actually never even had this cereal. But really interesting because this cereal was actually divided down the middle into 2 different flavors. This one was cherry and grape. The prompt was, which one are you going to eat first? Are you going to start with the cherry? Are you going to start with the grape? Or are you going to be really adventurous and mix the 2? I can tell you right now, I would absolutely have been a mixer. At that time, all cereals were, just sweet. And because this is Nerds, and Nerds have a pretty tart flavor, at least at first, this cereal actually had kind of that tart bite. And we're gonna do that. We're gonna add some citric acid when we're dehydrating this cereal. We're gonna mist some sugar and citric acid over the cereal and let that dehydrate onto our little beads that we make. And that's gonna give us that initial bite of kind of tartness, almost sour. And then it's gonna fold right into that beautiful sweetness that we all know from childhood breakfast cereals. So without further ado, let's get started. So according to the nutrition label on the original box of Nerd cereal, this is actually a blend of 4 different flours. That would be whole wheat flour, corn flour, rice flour, and oat flour. Of course, we don't know the exact proportions for all of those, but we do know in which order they are, which is the amount that's in the total mixture. So we're going to use that kind of hint from the nutrition label as guidance. So we're going to add 80 grams of whole wheat flour, 27 grams of corn flour, 27 grams of rice flour, and 27 grams of oat flour, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, a splash of vanilla extract, and then we're going to stir in 2/3 cup of water. And because we're staying true to form with the original Nerd cereal, we're doing 2 different flavors, so we're going to divide our batter up. And now we can add our flavors. There were 4 total flavors, 2 different boxes of Nerds back in the day. The beauty of making this on your own is that you can make any flavor you want. So rather than do orange or cherry or grape or something boring like that, I'm adding bubblegum flavor for the first cereal flavor, and I'm adding birthday cake as the second cereal flavor. Of course, you are absolutely welcome to use any flavor that sounds interesting to you. These happen to be 2 of my favorite artificial flavors. Sorry, not sorry, but you can use any flavor you'd like. Of course, divide these then into 2 separate bowls, mixing them together with those flavors. You can also, of course, add some food coloring to give them 2 separate colors, make them distinct, be able to tell them apart. Mix to combine and let them sit for 10 minutes. Now it's time to whip up our egg mixture. So we're gonna need 100 grams of egg whites to start with this. And I'm gonna promise you the best tool that you have for separating egg whites and yolks are your little tiny hands that you got already attached to you. It's absolutely the best way to divide those 2. No one can challenge me on that. I know that to be truth. And I am using grams here for a lot of things, kind of like the weights of the flour, the egg yolks, things like that. I promise you, getting a kitchen scale, especially for baked goods, is going to change your life. It's going to make things a lot easier. I can't recommend it enough. So we're going to whip 100 grams of egg whites until foamy. Then we're going to start to stream in another 100 grams of granulated sugar. And in a couple of minutes, you'll start to whip it enough that it starts to form peaks and really comes together. And the last step here will just be to toss in 1 capful of white vinegar. Then quickly mix to combine. Now take this egg mixture and divide it 50-50 into your 2 flavors. If you look here, we have bubblegum in the pink and birthday cake in the blue, and they're looking cute as heck. Now, we're kind of getting off easy here because the shape of Nerds cereal is much like actual Nerds, which is just little tiny rock ball things. So that's going to be really easy to pipe out onto a pan. So I'm using just a regular piping bag that you would use for cakes or what have you. And you'll see here in the video that I am probably the worst piper in the world. I just don't have the patience for it. Luckily, I'm just not that picky about the size and shape. Perhaps you are. You're welcome to be as committed to the size and shape as you like. I'm doing incredibly sloppy little balls. That didn't sound so good. Anyway, these will go into a 300-degree oven for about 12 to 15 minutes. Keep an eye on them. You don't want these to get too burnt. You want a little bit of browned edges, but you don't want to get these too burnt because we are going to move them over to the dehydrator to get the rest of that liquid out and give you a real nice cereal crunch. Now, just like the cereal you'll find in the grocery store, we want a sugary hard outer coating surrounding our little morsels. And this is particularly important for this cereal because, like I said in the intro, it has that sourness, it has that punch, that tartness. So we're going to combine half a cup of powdered sugar, 7 teaspoons of milk, 1 tablespoon of citric acid, and a splash of vanilla. We're just going to whisk this together. It'll come together pretty quickly, pretty easy. And then you'll want to funnel that into a spray bottle. Halfway through the dehydration process, we will spray our cereal with this and then continue the dehydration so that our cereal isn't sticky. It's a huge part of this, really kind of adds a professionalized touch to this because we will get a cereal that feels and crunches like a commercial product. Now that our cereal is out of the oven, it's time to dehydrate it. This will remove that last little bit of moisture without kind of overcooking or burning the cereal itself. This is also a really good way, as I mentioned, to kind of tighten up that sweetness, that sour kick that we're going to add to the outside. So I did about 135 degrees in the dehydrator for about 40 minutes, and then halfway through is when I sprayed the cereal with that sweet and sour mixture we made earlier. Now we're going to use a food saver to create that very interesting dividing layer in the middle of the cereal bag. So I'm just actually using an empty cereal bag from another bag, loading it into the food saver, and then just using the seal, not using the vacuum seal, just the seal feature. And that'll give us a separation between those two sides. Now, taking your cereal, one at a time, of course, per side, using a wide mouth filler funnel, say that 10 times fast, you'll want to add the flavors to each side of the bag.
All right, and there you have it. Homemade, dual-sided, dual-flavored Nerds cereal, discontinued in the late 80s. We're bringing them back in 2021. Pretty cool. Let's pour them out. There's about half the bubble gum, and there's about half the birthday cake. It is insane that we made this in a home kitchen. Not even kidding, not even exaggerating. Perhaps an involved process, however, truly not that difficult. And really, I know this sounds insane, but probably one of my favorite bowls of cereal I've ever had. I know that sounds crazy, but truly hits you in the front with that kind of punch of that sourness, almost like a warhead, but then quickly rolls right into a sweetness. I use some crazy flavoring, so I start to get that bubblegum flavor, and then I start to get that birthday cake. For me, that's heaven, right? And there's still such a nice crunch. Some of those pieces that were on the sides of the oven got a little bit extra burnt, really had a crunch to them, really caramelized the sugars. Such a treat to find those in there. And even like 20 minutes later, still has a crunch. And of course, you know, we stayed true to form, used oat flour and corn and rice flour, things like that. But that truly is the beauty of it. Not only can you customize the flavors, as I did, but you can totally change up the flour you use, things like that. Change it to your own dietary needs or wants. Obviously, tone back the sugar, use alternative sweeteners, things like that. Really versatile. So happy with this one. Probably my favorite thing that I've made in the kitchen in a while. I'm really having fun doing this, so like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.